If you've ever spent time trying to find off-market real estate deals you can buy at a discount, and especially if you run a flipping business where you actively do this all the time, you probably know how time-consuming this process can be. It takes a lot of back and forth and conversations, usually on the phone, with people who are not motivated and people you are never going to do business with. This is just part of the game and part of what you're signing up for when you're trying to find these great off-market deals. When you talk to a lot of these people and you make them these offers, most of them are inevitably going to say no, because your offer is low. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to find deals that we can buy at a discount, right? And you might wonder, as I often have, is there any way around this? Is there any way we can get to the bottom of it and figure out which of these people are actually motivated and which people are worth making offers to without spending gobs and gobs of our own time, or even a virtual assistant that we hire to do this? There's got to be a better way, right? Well, for the longest time, there were a few very imperfect ways of trying to deal with this. One way was to set up an automated voicemail greeting, which would kind of screen your calls, but you would also inevitably lose a lot of people who didn't want to listen to your voicemail and didn't want to leave a message. Or you could also hire a virtual receptionist where you basically pay a person to answer these calls live. But the problem is, they don't really know anything about your business. They can ask a handful of questions, but they're not specialists by any means, and they're expensive. But today, in the age of AI, there have been some massive new innovations that allow us to get a live voice agent on the phone. So we don't have to pay a human. This agent answers calls 24/7. They always do exactly what you tell them to do. And for the most part, they don't really make mistakes. And better yet, they can take the information that they gather from the caller and put it directly into your CRM if you're using Stride. This is an amazing new tool that everybody out there should be using because it can save them a ton of time and money and frankly do a better job than all the alternatives out there. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can set this up in your Stride account. And I've got another video where I will show you what one of these calls look like so you can understand what to expect if you set one of these up. How real does this thing sound? How good of a job does it do at collecting all the vital information? And can you trust it? Be sure to check out that video as well if you're wondering whether or not this is good enough for you. But in this video, I'm going to show you the nuts and bolts of how you can set this up in your Stride account. So assuming you're a user of Stride, and if you're not, head over to stridecrm.co and sign up. It's totally worth it, and I think you'll agree once you see how this works. So once you log into your account, you can come right down here to where it says Settings. And the first thing we need to do is create what's called a knowledge base. So this is like the brains and the instructions of what this voice AI agent is going to do. To do that, we're going to go over here to the left sidebar where we see Conversation AI, and we're going to go up here and click Manage Knowledge Base, and we can call it whatever we want. I'm just going to call it a Voice AI Agent Demo, and this is really just so you can remember what it is. So call it whatever you want. Create this thing. And there's a few different ways you can feed the information to this knowledge base to train the AI agent on what to do. So I'm going to go over here to where it says web crawler. Now, one way you can do this, if you have your own website for your business that says a lot about who you are and what you do, you could give it that. So we can scan your whole website and understand what's going on and how your business works, what your business name is, your hours of operation, all that stuff. So I'm going to grab the URL from my buying website. I'm going to click add source and we will do web crawler, and we're going to just paste the URL of that website in here. By the way, if you don't have a buying website yet, I've got a tutorial that explains what that is and why you should have one and how you can set that up as well. I'll link to that beneath this video if you want to check it out. But you just put the URL in there and extract the data. And it's going to take a few seconds to pull the information out of your website and put it right in here. But by itself, our website is not really enough to train this AI agent on what it needs to do. We really need a pretty specific set of instructions so it understands all the context of why are people calling and what information are we trying to get from the person who calls? Are there certain questions we're trying to ask? A lot of the stuff. If you're a paying user of Stride, we actually have something you can use for this. You can just copy and paste it. So it's this Google Doc right here, which basically provides a script for this AI agent to use. And I think this will work for most land flippers out there, but before you just take this and use it, take some time and actually read through it. to understand what are you training your AI agent to do and what should it know and what questions should it ask. For example, if you're a particular type of land investor that has some unique niche or strategy to it that isn't reflective of all other land flippers, you may want to tweak this a little bit and train it so it understands how your business works. And also, there is a little spot in here where you have to insert your company name. So be sure to insert your company name so it actually understands who it's working for and how it should answer the phone. Once you've put all that in there, I'll just put ABC company like that. You can just grab the shareable link, then go over here, add another source, and we're going to do web crawler again and paste it in there, and it will extract that data. And just like before, it's going to take a few seconds to pull that into the knowledge base, and you'll be good to go. All right, so now it's trained and all set. Now, there are other things you could do in here if you wanted to, like you could put FAQs if you have them on your website. Say if you've spent a lot of time on that and you've really answered all the potential questions, you could drop that in there too. Or you could do tables. I'm not using either one of those though. I've just got these two and that should be enough. So once that's all done, now we're going to go and create our voice AI agent. So right over here in the left sidebar, I'm going to click on voice AI agents and we're going to create agent. And we're going to create a custom agent here and click continue. And we're going to put the name of our agent in here. I'm going to call mine Sam, and the business name, just put ABC company or whatever your business name is called. Put that in there. Language is English, and the voices, there are a ton of different voices to choose from here. And a lot of them sound very realistic. The one that I'm going to choose is called Hope. And you can click play next to whichever voice you choose just to hear it in action and see like, is this actually what I want? Does this sound good enough for me? Let's listen to this one quick.
Okay, so this might sound silly, but I just got this weird sparkly feeling in my chest, and I think I'm actually falling in love.
So there you go. Just kind of gives you an idea for what it sounds like. Pretty realistic. Moving on down here, we're going to want to put our time zone. And the main reason this is important is just if you have any answering rules or business hours, say if you want this AI agent to handle all calls after hours, you can help it understand when you're actually open or not. So that's why the time zone matters. And we're only going to be using this for inbound calls. That's it. And then right down here, you can type out what you want this agent's initial greeting to be, and it will say that exactly how you type it. So, for example, we could say, hey there, thanks for calling ABC Company. My name's Sam. How can I help you today? And notice how I inserted the word in there. That's just to make it sound more human and put people at ease. Another thing you can do here, it's kind of hard to see, but in this lower right corner, there's this thing you can click to drag this and make it bigger if you want. And you can also use custom fields and custom values in here. So if you wanted to like insert the name of a team member or the name of your company or literally any specific information about anything anywhere in your Stride CRM account, you can insert that as well. I'm not going to do that here. I just wanted to point it out so you're aware that that's there. So once that's all set, we're going to click next. And then over here, we can say what our agent's goals are going to be. And the first thing we got to do here is select a knowledge base. So we basically have to choose which brain we want to associate with this. And it's the one that we just created. Remember just a few minutes ago when we created that knowledge base? So we can click on this and look at that. There's the one we just made. So we just select that. And then when it says when to use this knowledge base. So it's got this sort of boilerplate thing that it's already going to insert in there for you. I'm going to change it up just a little bit and put this more specific thing in here. By the way, if you're a Stride user, we'll give you access to all this stuff for free. You can just copy and paste it when you create yours. And also, feel free to edit this to your liking. If the way we have it written isn't really reflective of how your business works, then change anything you want. This is just to give you a starting point. And then when it says details to collect from the contact, a lot of this is actually going to be built into the prompt that you use as you train this AI agent. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But if you want to make sure that in the conversation, this agent is collecting specific information from the person calling, you can just check these boxes and it will be sure it's asking for their full name and their email address and that kind of thing. But even if you don't have these things checked, it will still ask these questions if you have this written in the prompt that you give it. So just be aware of that. And then down here, trigger workflow when call is completed. So there are a few workflows that we've created that we are adding to your account for all you Stride users out there that are optional. You can turn them on if you want. It will basically take certain information from the call and either pass it to a specific team member or take information and put it into the contacts details, all that stuff. Or you can create your own automated workflow and tie it to this voice AI agent if you want. And you don't have to do any of that if you don't want, but just want to let you know this could potentially be a useful thing for you. And over here, depending on how your business works, if you are a solopreneur, like it's just you and that's all, then you could say, yeah, send me an email when a call is completed. Or if there's a certain team member tied to each contact, you can say, hey, when this contact calls, send them an email notification. Don't send it to me. Say if you've got 20 people on your team and they're calling hundreds of people every day and one of them calls back, you don't want to get notified about everything. Just notify the appropriate person. And you could do that by saying, contacts assigned user if you want to. Or if you really don't care at all, you can get no email notifications. It's up to you. I'm going to do this one right here. And then we're going to click next. And the next step, we need to select a phone number from our account to tie to this AI agent. So if you've got a certain phone number on your buying website, which is different from the one on your selling website, then connect this one to the buying. And if we know this AI agent is trained specifically for the purpose of buying or handling the intake of the acquisition funnel, you would connect this to the phone number for the buying side of your business. So pick whatever phone number you want to connect it to and do that. Or if you want to buy a new number, you can do that right here. It's super easy. And there's different ways to set this up. You could set it up so that the AI agent is just a backup. So if you're not able to answer the phone, then this will kick in. Or you could have this answer all calls if you want, or only after certain hours. You can see how to do all that stuff here. You can set the working hours for the agent, select certain days of the week and times of the day, that kind of thing. So it's really just up to you, however you want to do that. And then we're going to click save here. Once we've clicked save, we're going to go back here to agent list and we see the one agent we just set up. And when we click through here, we can sort of see a summary of what we've already done, but we're not quite done yet because I want to show you some advanced things we can do here. So if we switch to advanced mode, we're going to select that knowledge base again. We can see this thing we already wrote in here, but when it shows the prompt here, so what this did was it took that knowledge base and kind of assembled its own version of a prompt of what it thought the prompt should be. And again, you can drag this to read it easier and go through everything it says. But another thing we did here is we set up a Notion page with a more detailed prompt that we think works a little bit better. So we'll have a link to this as well for anybody who is a paying user of Stride. You can copy and paste this if you want, it's up to you. And if and when you do that, just be sure you are reviewing everything this prompt says so that it says your business name correctly. And if it's saying something that you don't want it to say, fix it. But again, this will just save you a lot of time, give it a good starting point. I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste it in there, starting with where it says roll up here at the top. So I'll go up in here and paste that and make sure we're putting the right company in there. And another really important thing to do when you're setting up this AI agent is telling it what actions to take during or after the call. And it doesn't really matter whether it's during or after the call. In fact, if anything, it might be better to do it after the call. But what this is doing is it's telling the AI agent when you talk to somebody who calls in and when you gather the necessary information, what do you do with that? Are you going to compile a nice summary email and send it to me? Or are you going to actually take the information that you gather and put it in all the respective fields in that contact in your CRM? Because it can do all that stuff. You just have to tell it what to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to after the call. And by default, it's going to extract the first name and the email address. If you remember those little radio buttons we checked earlier on in the process. So it's got those in there. But we can add a lot of new actions to this. For example, we could have it transfer the call to another team member based on what the person says when they're talking to the AI agent, or we could have it trigger a workflow if we have some set up. Again, we're going to provide a few that you can use if you want to use them. We can have it send a text message to the person who just called saying whatever we want to say about it, or we could book an appointment if we want, or what I think is particularly useful is updating the contact fields. And there's a lot of ways it can help in this regard, because remember, the whole point of this process is to gather a lot of initial information about the property owner and their property, because this is just some of the critical information we need to know in order to go to the next step of possibly making an offer. This is also one of the most time-consuming things, is just asking questions and gathering information. So this is really where this AI agent can help you in a big way. And all we have to do here is just create an action name. For example, we could say acres, and which contact field do we want to update? So one of the questions that this AI agent is going to ask is, what is the size of your property? How many acres? And when it gathers that information, it can take that number of acres and put it in the appropriate field in the contact regarding that property so that neither you or anyone else on your team has to manually enter that. The AI agent just does the work right there after the call. It's awesome. So we're going to say which contact field can be updated, and we just type in size. We're going to have this update the property size in acres. And then when it says what to update in the field, just going to say size of the property in acres. And we can either have it overwrite the existing information that's there, if anything, or not. And then when it says provide an example for the voice agent to update the contact field. So this is like an example of, what kind of information might I expect to see when it puts the acreage in there. So I could say, maybe like 1.54 acres. Show it to me in that format. Don't type out the words 1.54 acres. Put the number just like that. If that makes sense. And you can save that. And another thing to know about the way this voice AI agent works is that when it's updating fields like this, it has some limitations in terms of what kinds of fields it can update. For example, if you have an item in your contact that's a drop down where you have to select one from a number of options, it can't fill that in. If you have radio buttons like yes or no, it can't do that either. It can only fill in numbers and letters that are in blank fields, just so you understand what those limitations are. And other information you might want to collect here. So personally, I'd be looking for like the county, the state, the APN number, or the parcel number if the person calling has that. We could also have it answer the question of whether or not the property is in a homeowners association, maybe whether they're current on all their taxes or not, that kind of stuff. Just think about the most basic essential stuff you would want to know before you decide to dig deeper into the property. For example, in my live account right now, these are all the different actions I have for my voice AI agent. You can see there's 9 of them. And some of these, I actually had to update the custom fields within my contacts in order for them to work. Like for example, the property tax. Originally, I had this set up as a yes or no radio button so that a person could click yes or no. But currently, the voice AI agent can't answer that. It can only put information in blank fields. So what I had to do was essentially delete the existing custom field that I had beneath my contact and then create a new one that was just a single text line, because that's the kind of thing that this voice AI agent is able to answer. And then I just put these basic instructions in there. If you want to do that, and you'll probably have to do that for a few of these, depending on how your account is set up, you can go over here in the left sidebar and click on custom fields and go to folders and then go to seller insights. And this is where a lot of these questions are. And you'll see some of them say radio in there. And those are the kinds that the voice AI agent can't answer. Let's expand this a little bit. You'll also see that some of them are like single option drop down, and it can't answer those either. It can only answer these ones that say text. So for example, are there any improvements on the property? I had to create this as a new one just so that the voice AI agent could answer this. And if you're not familiar with custom fields and how they work and how to create or edit them, we've got a separate video in our tutorial library explaining how that works. But just a quick overview, go over here to add field. You want to click single line, next, and then call it whatever you want to call it. Property taxes. This will go underneath contact, and then we'll go ahead and save this thing. Once we save it, we'll be able to see it right down here at the very bottom. We can move it up and down if we want. And then back over here, if we go back to the voice AI agent, back to agent list, click on Sam, and back over to agent goals. So we would just go back over here. And if we wanted to add a new action, we can now update the contact field and find property taxes, the one that we just created there. Call it this and just explain how we would want to put it in there. So yes or no. You do not have to follow the setup that I have. For example, if you wanted your agent to ask whether the seller has an asking price in mind, which I currently don't do, but if you wanted to do that, you could then add a new action and fill in the asking price. You would have to not only put this action in here, but also go back to your instructions and make sure that you're telling it to ask that question in the first place. Because if you don't tell it to ask that, it's not going to ask that. And again, to do that, you just go back over here to Conversation AI, Manage Knowledge Base, go right here, and then go to the web crawler. And you can click on this to open up what the current instructions look like and make sure it is asking the right questions. And this kind of just looks like a giant wall of text, which it is. But again, you can see all of the questions it's asking right here. And if you want to sort this out a little bit better, just do this kind of thing just to make it easier to read. And we could say, asking price, how much do you need to get for this property? Just like that. So if you want to go ahead and update the instructions at any point, that's all you have to do, and then save this, and then you're good to go. Pretty simple, right? And try not to ask too much, because remember, we don't want to make this like a super long call and make it really laborious for the person calling. just get that basic info. And also keep in mind what this bot is trained to do based on the prompt we're giving you. So if you wanted to ask other questions that we don't have in there, then be sure you update the prompt so that it asks those questions. And another thing to keep in mind is that as it has these phone calls, it's going to notify you after each call. And not only is it going to update the fields that you dictate here, but it's also going to put together a nice email summary to show you what happened and how the conversation went. Here's a quick example of what some of these email summaries look like right there on the screen. So it's pretty nice and useful information. You can get this automatically emailed to you. This will also be added as a note to that contact. When you go into their contacts, you can see what happened there. And if you have it enabled, you can also listen to a recording and read the full transcript of what happened in this phone call. So you can have no questions about what happened, how the call went, if the person had an issue or got mad or was happy about something. I mean, whatever it is, you can see it and understand the full scope of what happened there. All you have to do is scroll up here and go to dashboard and logs. And if you've done any calls, right down here will show you a lot of that call information. You can click on summary and it will give you a summary of what was talked about in that call. Or also you could go over here to agent details and go right down here and click on call history, and it will show you all of the calls. And when you click on it, it will even show you a transcript of everything that was said. So you can see exactly what happened on that call. You can also click here to listen to the recording and play that if you want, or click on summary and again, just see that short summary. And another thing you can do is go over here to the contacts, and whenever it has one of these AI conversations, it will add these little tags there. So we can click on that and then go up here. We can listen to the recordings here, but also when we click on notes, we can see the notes that the AI agent put together all about that call. So we can see when the call happened, how long it was, and just a brief summary of what's going on. And it'll add these notes with every conversation that happens in addition to any actions you tell it to do, like filling in certain fields about the property and or the property owner. And when you're done setting this up, you can test out your AI agent and have a little conversation with it to see, hey, is it doing the right thing? Does it sound right? Is it asking the right questions? You can even try to challenge it in the phone call to see how it responds. And you can do that just by putting the phone number right in here that you want it to call. It'll call you at that number. And when you pick up, it's going to treat you as though you just called it, just so you understand the context. And you get up to 10 minutes a day to test this out to see how it goes. Anything beyond that, you have to start paying for it. And as I think you'll see, it's pretty awesome what can be done with this voice AI agent thing. This can be a massive help in your business, saving you a ton of time, and you don't have to take my word for it. Give it a try, test it out yourself, and see if you like it. Thanks for watching. Best of luck. I'll talk to you next time.